Since Lord Ram, Lord Krishna, and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu were detected by the sages and saints to be the personality of Godhead, as indicated in revealed scriptures, many unscrupulous men have created their own incarnations. This process of concocting an incarnation of God has become an ordinary business, especially in Bengal. Any popular personality with few traits displays something of jugglery and easily become an incarnation of Godhead by popular vote. Lord Sri Krishna was not that type of incarnation. He was actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead from the very beginning of his appearance. He appeared before his so-called mother as four-armed Vishnu. Then at the request of the mother, he became like a human child, and at once left her for another devotee in Gokul, where he was accepted as the son of Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Mata. Similarly, Sri Baladev, the counterpart of Lord Sri Krishna, was also considered a human child, born of another wife of Sri Vasudeva. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that his birth and deeds are transcendental, and that anyone who is so fortunate as to know the transcendental nature of his birth and deeds will at once become liberated and eligible to return to the kingdom of God. So knowledge of the transcendental nature of the birth and deeds of Lord Sri Krishna is sufficient for liberation. In the Bhagavatam, the transcendental nature of the Lord is described in 9 cantos, and in the 10th canto, his specific pastimes are taken up. All this becomes known as one's reading of this literature progresses. It is important to note here, however, that the Lord exhibited his divinity even from the lap of his mother, and his deeds are all superhuman. He lifted Govardhan Hill at the age of 7, and that all these acts definitely prove him to be actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yet, due to his mystic covering, he was always accepted as an ordinary human child by his so-called father and mother and other relatives. Whenever some Herculean task was performed by him, the father and mother took it otherwise, and they remained satisfied with unflinching filial love for their son. As such, the sages of Naimisharanya describe him as apparently resembling a human being, but actually he is the supreme, almighty personality of Godhead. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namne Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Vicharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Vasadesha Sarni. Yeah, so this verse is very nice. Srila Prabhupada is talking about how because Krishna appeared as a human being and he played exactly like a human being, then people thought, well, if Krishna can act like a human being and be God, then I'm acting like a human being and I can also be God. So then, based on that, then Prabhupada is saying that the process of concocting an incarnation of God has become an ordinary business, especially in Bengal. So Prabhupada would say that in India, on every street corner, there's an incarnation, so-called incarnation. It's a very common business. And then people, they pose themselves as being, having superpowers and make all kinds of promises to people that I can heal your diseases, I can, whatever, get this person under your control or something. And then just to take people's money. There's so many gullible people in the world that, they get away with it. So, yeah, Prabhupada was talking about this doctrine of anthropomorphism and zoomorphism. So that the idea is that anthro means human. So that anthropomorphism means that we project our humanness onto God, right? That's what it means. That we kind of try to bring God down to our own level and make God into an ordinary person. So if we can make God into an ordinary person, then we can make an ordinary person into God. And then we can ascribe all the human qualities like human error and human conditioning onto God. And then that kind of diminishes God. And so anthropomorphism, yeah. And people think it's kind of like an accusation against by atheists to people that, you just need some super figure in your life, to solve your problems. And so you concoct this conception of God. And then, because you're a human and that's what you relate to, then you just imagine that God also has human-like qualities. And so, either from the atheists who want to deny the existence of God and just consider him a human imagination or speculation or projection, or from people who want to be God and think, oh, well, if a God can appear like a human being, then I can also be God. So either way, or zoomorphism is that they do the same like with an animal, right? And Krishna does appear as animals, right? We were talking yesterday about Matsya and Kurma and Varahadev and so forth. So people sometimes worship animals as gods. It's animal spirits. I think that's common with the Native American Indian tradition, right? Different animal spirits as gods. So, people may have these and they may have faith and belief in these things, but Prabhupada's saying that these things never apply to Krishna. They're never applicable to Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. No man can ever become God by doing some austerities, even if they think so, and even if people accept them as such, that doesn't make you God, right? Just because people have faith in you doesn't mean that that makes you something wonderful, although it may inflate your ego. That's all it does. It doesn't really make you more, it just makes you puffed up. So, yeah. So he's saying that, yeah, even if some of these people that pose to be God, they can show some mystic powers, right? Like there's some people that claim to be incarnations, they can create some ashes out of the hand or create some apple or, pull a coin out of somebody's ear or something like that, kind of like magic powers. And then people are like, oh, this person must be God because they can create something. But there are a lot you can actually get mystic powers, right? If you read Patanjali Yoga, it's very clear, like if you want this mystic power, then do this. If you want that mystic power, then do that. And so it's not easy, but you can control the mind, control the senses, do some austerities, and you can actually get some mystic powers. But I think it's in the Sri Upanishad, that Prabhupada, one of his purports, he talks about how all these mystic powers, the 8 siddhis, right, like a Laghima siddhi, making oneself lighter than the lightest, or Anima siddhi, making oneself like smaller, like an atom in size, or Prapti siddhi, being able to just get whatever you want from any place, even a remote place, you just can acquire it, just comes to you, or controlling other people's minds, like that. So he said you can get those siddhis, but he said that modern science has found ways to make those things happen. So you don't have to go and do austerities for years. You just, he said if you want to by mystic cities, you can make yourself small and you can enter into the stone. But Prabhupada said that nowadays they can just excavate and, with explosives, they can enter into the earth and make tunnels and like that, subway systems and things. They can enter into the stone, pass through stone. So, yeah, and then making yourself lighter than the lightest, that you can ascend into the sky. Well, there are airplanes, helicopters, spaceships, satellites, all these things. So the conclusion is that all these things are just material. They don't make you God. They just make you, an advanced materialist. So, and there's nothing material about God. So being a good, like a not very good materialist, a better materialist, the best materialist, it never makes you God, because you're still just a materialist. And God is not material. So God, or Krishna, is completely transcendental. And that's the point that Prabhupada's making in this purport, that he doesn't become God by doing some austerities or any sadhana or mystic powers or anything, but he's God from the very beginning of his life, very beginning of his appearance in this world, that he appears from Devaki, and even his being placed in the womb of Devaki, his entrance in the womb of Devaki is very mystical, right? It's like immaculate conception. He's transferred from the mind of Vasudeva into the mind of the heart of Devaki, and then somehow her womb appears to grow, and then he suddenly appears, not by the normal, birth canal process, but he just appears. And he appears not as an ordinary child, although he plays like a human being, but when he appears, he immediately shows himself to be God, right? He appears in his 4-armed Vishnu form, and then only because of the loving request of his mother does he take on the form. He goes from 4-armed, full-grown Vishnu form with helmet, ornaments, fully dressed, everything, and then he becomes like a little baby in her arms. So the Prabhupada says that Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that Janma karma chame divyam evanyo veti tatvataha. How's it go? Mam kupetya tukunteya punar janma navidite. Yeah, that one who knows the transcendental nature of the Krishna is saying, one who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving this body, take birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode. So just by understanding that Krishna's birth and his activities in this world, his janma and his karma, are transcendental, are divya, then we go back to Godhead, right? It's like, in one sense, it's that simple, but also it indicates that really appreciating the transcendental nature of Krishna's birth and activities is not so easy, right? Otherwise, everyone would just be like, all right, yeah, Krishna's appears in this mystical, transcendental way, totally spiritual way. His activities are totally sublime and spiritual, nothing to do with the 3 months. Yay, going back home, back to Godhead, ki jai. Right, so it means that it's not so easy. Because we tend to, we have this tendency to project, our materialistic conceptions onto Krishna and think that when Krishna goes off into the night and dances with the gopis, that's immoral, or that when Krishna, kills demons, then that's violent, or, when Krishna steals butter, that's, thievery, that's wrong. Krishna does things that are politically incorrect. Like he's not so socially advanced because he does things that whatever don't seem right. But we have to understand everything that Krishna does is totally transcendental. And so that's why the Bhagavatam is so long. Right? That's why the Bhagavatam has 12 cantos, is because we need to read the first 9 cantos first, just to realize and understand very clearly and very deeply that Krishna is not like us. Krishna is not subjected to the same laws that we're subject to. He's totally transcendental. So that then when we get to the 10th canto, where his personal pastimes, Vraj Leela, Dwarka Leela, are described, then we can appreciate that these are not of this world. This is something very different. Can't be compared at all. The Krishna's activities with the gopis can't be compared at all to the, loving romantic relationships between boys and girls in this world. So, yeah. And even though Krishna plays as a human being, as it says here, but still he performs superhuman acts from time to time, just to dispel any doubts. So sometimes he acts like an ordinary human being, that he's being chased by his mother and he's scared and he's crying and he's breathing heavily and like that. And then other times he'll just like lift him out with his little finger. So Krishna's kind of like, just in case you actually thought that I was, somebody other than who I am, you thought I was an ordinary person. Yeah. So he has to give some proof. And then in Bhagavad Gita, in the Battle of Kurukshetra, he shows his universal form. And the whole reason he does that is just to show that he is the supreme person, and also to set the standard for any of these, people who try to claim to be God. Then you can say, all right, well, if you're God, then show me your universal form. Yeah. But see, it's interesting because even though he sometimes did these Herculean tasks, these superhuman tasks, but due to the influence of Krishna's internal potency, his Yogamaya potency, his father and mother took it otherwise. Right? Whenever some Herculean task was performed by him, the father and mother took it otherwise, and they remained satisfied and unflinching in their filial love for their son. So this is the power of love, right? That love overpowers experience, right? Like you can experience. They say love is blind, right? They say that when 2 people are in love, it's like you just become blinded, and you can't see their faults. Like even if the person has like a zillion red flags, the person, if you're in love with them, it's like either you don't notice them or you might just notice them momentarily, but they just disappear in a second, right? So that's kind of like the perverted reflection of pure devotees' love for Krishna. And that sometimes Mother Yashoda will look into Krishna's mouth to see if he's eaten mud, and she'll see all the universes there. She'll see the whole universal form there within his mouth. And then for a moment, she'll be like, oh my God, who is this child? Like, and then next moment, she'll just be like, oh, he must be sick. I need to call the doctor. There's something wrong with his throat. So, yeah, it's described like, it's not that the Vrajavasis don't know that Krishna is God, but it's just so covered. Sometimes it surfaces, and so the acharyas give this example of like, see in India people get fresh milk fresh from the cows, and it needs to get boiled, and so wherever there's cows, there's going to be straw because they lie in the straw, they eat straw, there's straw everywhere. So sometimes you milk the cow, and then some pieces of straw will go into the bucket. So then you pour the milk into the pot to boil it. So milk is boiling, it's like a rolling boil, and so maybe there's like one small piece of straw in the milk, and that somehow didn't get filtered out when you put it in the pot. And then, so the milk is boiling, and sometimes that straw will come up to the surface, but then immediately it will go down again. So like that. So the knowledge of Krishna's divinity, of his actual position as a supreme personality of God is like that straw. Sometimes it comes to the surface, and oh, there's a straw, oh, gone again. And then it'll stay down for a long time, and then after it comes up and then down again. So sometimes they think, oh, maybe Krishna's a God. Nah, it couldn't be. Nah, maybe he's some demigod. Or he's just our wonderful Krishna. So like that. Okay. Shall we go on? Another verse? What time is it? We're supposed to stop at 6:45? 7.
7.
Okay. So let's go to the next verse. Text 21. Kalim agatam agyaya kshetresmin vaishnave vayam asina dirga shatrena katayam sakshanahare. Knowing well that the age of Kali has already begun, we are assembled here in this holy place to hear at great length the transcendental message of Godhead, and in this way perform sacrifice. Report. This age of Kali is not at all suitable for self-realization, as was Satya Yuga, the Golden Age, or Treta, or Dwapara Yuga, the Silver and Copper Ages. Right? We experienced that, right? That this current time is not suitable for self-realization. It's very difficult, right? We're struggling just to get, a few people to wake up in the morning and, chat together and hear Bhagavatam together, and it's just so difficult. So the influence of the age is hard. For self-realization, the people in Satya Yuga living a lifetime of 100,000 years were able to perform prolonged meditation. So yeah, they had very long lives. So during their long lifespan, they could just sit and be peaceful for many, many years, meditation. And in Treta Yuga, when the duration of life was 10,000 years, self-realization was attained by the performance of great sacrifices. And so that back in the day, people had so much wealth, right? People had gold, like just for every family, even common people, had plenty of gold. They had real jewels. They had, all kinds of opulence, good food, and stocks of grains, and land, and cows, and, yeah. And in the Dwapara Yuga, when the duration of life was 1,000 years, self-realization was attained by worship of the Lord. So in Dwapara Yuga, they would worship the deity in the temple very elaborately. But in Kali Yuga, the maximum duration of life being 100 years only, and that combined with various difficulties, the recommended process of self-realization is that of hearing and chanting the holy name, fame, and pastimes of the Lord. The sages of Naimisharanya began this process in a place meant specifically for the devotees of the Lord. They prepared themselves to hear the pastimes of the Lord over a period of 1,000 years. By the example of these sages, one should learn that regular hearing and recitation of the Bhagavatam is the only way for self-realization. Other attempts are simply a waste of time, but they do not give any tangible results. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu preached this system of Bhagavat Dharma and he recommended that all those who were born in India should take the responsibility of broadcasting the messages of Lord Sri Krishna, primarily the message of Bhagavad Gita. And when one is well established in the teachings of Bhagavad Gita, he can take up the study of Srimad Bhagavatam for further enlightenment and self-realization. Yeah, very nice. Yeah, so these sages are gathered at the beginning of Kali. It's just begun. And so they're setting the example of what to do in the age of Kali. And so what are they doing? We saw in the text 19 that Maharaj did read yesterday, that they want to hear untiringly the transcendental pastimes of the personality of Godhead. So that's what they're requesting here of Sutta Goswami. Please narrate about the name, fame, form, qualities, and pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. And they're going to do it for 1,000 years. Amazing, right? Actually, wait, the beginning of Kali Yuga, how did they have 1,000 years? I guess it was the beginning. They were still having long. Yeah, so the beginning of Kali Yuga, people still have a long lifespan, similar to like Dwapara Yuga, but then gradually, not so gradually, it's diminishing. So now we're down to like 100 years. But at least we can spend 1 hour a day. We may not be able to spend 1,000 years or even 1 year, but at least 1 hour a day would be nice to hear about Krishna. And Prabhupada is saying this is that regular hearing and recitation of the Bhagavatam is the only way for self-realization. The only way. Sometimes he says the holy name is the only way, right? Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Eva Kevalam, Kalu Nasteva, Nasteva, Nasteva Gatiranta. Then in this age of Kali, there is no other way, no other way, no other way except the holy name, chanting the holy name, chanting the holy name of the Lord. No other way for deliverance. And here he's saying that the only way for self-realization is regular hearing and recitation of Bhagavatam. So the thing is that those two go hand in hand. And that's what my book, The Ancient Roots of Kirtan, is all about. Is about how the process of religion, the Yuga Dharma for this age is Hare Krishna. And the book for this age is Srimad Bhagavatam. So if we try to chant Hare Krishna without hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, then our Hare Krishna is going to become like sense gratification, right? Just doing kirtan for the sake of enjoying social life together with devotees, singing and dancing. Even our japa is going to become just like something that we do to, decompress, de-stress, for peace of mind, good mental health. And it'll all become kind of watered down and mundane. But as long as we stay in touch with Srimad Bhagavatam, then we're going to understand, what the holy name of Krishna is, what the actual, why we're actually chanting it, is that we're trying to reestablish our eternal relationship for Krishna. We're trying to awaken our love for Krishna. So yeah, there's a conversation that happens in Chaitanya Charitamrita between Haridas Thakur and some Brahmins, some learned scholarly Brahmanas. So Haridas Thakur comes over to this assembly of Brahmanas, and they know that Haridas Thakur, he's a big fan of chanting Hare Krishna, right? He would chant 192 rounds every day. So they thought, well, let's say something to please this, great sadhu. Out of respect, they thought, let us appreciate the holy names, because this is they want to please him by saying something that he'll be happy with. So they say to Haridas Thakur, they say, oh, the holy name of Krishna's Hare Krishna mantra is so great, so glorious, that by chanting it, one can get free from all sins, all sinful reactions, and attain liberation. And Haridas Thakur looks at them like disappointed, like almost disgusted, like, no. Like, yes, those things happen, but that's not the goal of chanting. Those are just some insignificant side effects of chanting Hare Krishna. The real goal of chanting Hare Krishna is to attain transcendental love for Lord Krishna. So how do we know that? From Srimad Bhagavatam, right? Because when we read the whole first nine cantos and realize that Krishna is the Supreme Lord, and then we hear the 10th canto, and then we hear about all the different loving relationships that devotees have with the Lord, right? We hear that from his birth, we hear about Vasudeva and Devaki's love for Krishna, and how they're just, she's saying, you're the Lord, but I need to protect you. right? Which is totally like, doesn't make any sense. It's illogical. Well, if you're the Lord, if you're the supreme controller, you're the person that we pray to for protection, right? They would pray to Lord Vishnu for protection. And Lord Vishnu is standing in front of her. And she's like, can you please like hide this form? Because then they're going to know that you're the person that Kamsa's going to know you're Lord Vishnu and he's going to try to kill you. So just please become a baby so that I can hide you and protect you. So yeah, love defies all logic. And then Mother Yashoda also, her love for Krishna, we see, is so intense that she'll do anything for Krishna, and she punishes Krishna, and she's, always singing songs about Krishna while she's doing things. She's always in anxiety about Krishna whenever he's out of her sight. And so her love is very, very intense. And then we see the cowherd boys' love for Krishna. They just want to be with Krishna, play with Krishna, make Krishna happy, and the gopis' love for Krishna is very intense, that they leave even their husbands, their families, their children. They don't care about their reputations, or even if they're totally rejected and, ostracized from the society, they just will do anything for Krishna. So we see all these different flavors of love and the ecstasy that comes from that love, the intensity of love. And that's supposed to also awaken our love for Krishna. So as we chant Hare Krishna, that purifies the heart of the conditioning that's holding down our love for Krishna and brings it up. And also by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, that also purifies the heart. And Krishna says, Srimvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanam Vidyantasto Hyabadrani Vidunoti Suhitsatam. That anybody who that Krishna, who's in the heart of the devotee, cleanses the desire for material enjoyment from the heart of those who have developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. So if we have the urge to hear Krishna's messages, and where are Krishna's messages? Srimad Bhagavatam, right? That's where the biggest treasure house of Krishna's pastimes and instructions are in the Bhagavatam. So when we hear those, it's also purifying. Krishna purifies the heart. And then when the heart's purified, then love arises. So that's the goal of chanting. That's the goal of hearing. So when we hear Srimad Bhagavatam, we know what the goal of chanting is. We know that the holy name is Krishna. And we know who Krishna is from Bhagavatam. We know what his form, we know what he looks like, we know what his different names are. We know the potency of his name from pastimes like at Jamil. And then we know, Krishna's pastimes. And so when we chant with this knowledge of Krishna and his name, form, qualities, and pastimes, then that chanting of Hare Krishna opens up a whole transcendental reality, and that we are attracted to, because that's also our reality. We have a place there. That's where we're supposed to be. And right now we're in an illusion, like we're living in an illusion, and we need to get back to the reality. So Srimad Bhagavatam is distinguishing reality from illusion for the welfare of all. How does that verse go? Second verse. Dharma projiti kaitavoja paramo nirmatsaranam sitam vedyam vastavam achavastam. Sorry, vedyam vastam. Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite Kim Sadhya Vidya Viruddhite Trakriti Vishu Shushabhistachana. So yeah, that verse says that. Oh, I have it right here. First canto. Let's find it. Introduction song. Text 2. Yeah. Vidyam Vastavam Achravastu Shivadam Tapatrayam Mulanam. Yeah, so the translation, completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated. This Bhagavat Purana propounds the highest truth, which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart. The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. Such truth uproots the threefold miseries. This beautiful Bhagavatam, compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in his maturity, is sufficient in itself for God realization. What is the need for any other scripture? As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam, by this culture of knowledge, the Supreme Lord is established within his heart. Yeah, so that's what we were just hearing, right, in Prabhupada's purport, that Srimad Bhagavatam is the only way for self-realization. And other attempts are simply a waste of time, but they do not give any tangible results. So, yeah, Vyasadeva was saying, Shukadeva Swami was saying the same thing. This Srimad Bhagavatam is sufficient in itself for God realization. And the verse we read, also text 19, the first verse we read today, Prabhupada started off saying that, in this verse, text 21, the age of Kali is not at all suitable for self-realization. Self-realization is very difficult in this age, but then he says that this Srimad Bhagavatam is sufficient in itself for God realization, for self-realization. It's very difficult if you don't know the process, right? But if you know that self-realization or God realization can be attained very easily by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, chanting Hare Krishna, then, you're going to be golden. All you need to do is just chant Hare Krishna, hear Srimad Bhagavatam, and everything is perfect. So this is a process that Lord Chaitanya gave, and he exhibited, right? He would hear Srimad Bhagavatam, teach Srimad Bhagavatam, chant the holy names, and he wants us, he says, he recommended that all those born in India should take responsibility of broadcasting this message of Srimad Bhagavatam, broadcasting the holy name. So people born in India means anybody who knows about it, basically, because at that time, Srila Prabhupada came to the West. Nobody in the Western world knew about these things. But people in India, they knew about the holy name. They knew about Bhagavad Dharma. But so that means anyone knows. So anyone who knows these facts of life about the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam and the holy name, and how we can get not only free from all sinful reactions, not only liberated, but the ultimate goal of life, pure love for Krishna by these two processes, then we need to broadcast it. We need to teach that to other people, share it. And that's why we're live streaming this, because we're hoping people out there will hear this and be benefited and be able to take up this beautiful process of self-realization, the only process that's going to work in this age of Kali. Okay, so we better stop. Any reflections or questions? The only question I have here from live stream is, are you married? And where are you from? Typical, right? No comment. All right, so any actually relevant questions?
Will you talk more about the self-realization?
Self-realization?
Yes.
What does self-realization mean?
Exactly.
So self-realization means to realize who I am, right? Who I am. Yeah, so right now we're in illusion. I'm thinking I'm this body. Thinking that whatever, that I'm male or female, that I'm, American or Indian or Russian or, Chinese or whatever, that I'm old or young, that I'm, married or not married. So totally irrelevant questions, because it's all illusion. And the actual fact is that I'm none of these things. I'm the soul inside the body, and that soul, and I have a spiritual identity, which has nothing to do with this temporary material body that I'm in, and situation that I'm born in, country that I'm born in, or whatever. So that's what I want to know. Self-realization means knowing that I'm a soul and knowing what my spiritual identity is, realizing that I'm a servant of Krishna, and realizing the details of that, like how am I meant to serve Krishna, and engaging in those practices which uncover that, and engaging in those practices by which we can discover ourselves, right? Because it's kind of a sad situation if you think that I don't even know who I am. It's actually like a pretty sad situation. I have no idea who I am. That's like kind of like something we need to find out, right? I mean, the questions that we ask, it's like, all right, how do I find money? Where's a good place to eat? How do I get from point A to point B? It's like we ask all these kinds of questions, and what's the weather going to be like next week? Or, when you're coming to visit me, or are you married? Or whatever, right? And so these are irrelevant questions. I mean, maybe we need to, for practical things for our service, we need to know how to navigate the world. But the really important questions are, who am I? Why am I here? How did I get into this ignorance? How did I become illusioned? And how do I get out of it? So that's what Bhagavatam is teaching us. Bhagavatam is answering the real questions, and telling us how to giving us the process. Unfortunately, in the age of Kali, it's so easy. We just need to hear Srimad Bhagavatam and chant the holy names, right? And still, how many people are listening? So that's the unfortunate, that Manda Sumanda Matayo. Yeah, there's a nice verse here. It's verse 10 here in this same chapter. So many nice verses in this chapter. Text 10. Payena Payusha Savya Kalavasmin Yuge Janaha Manda Sumanda Matayo Manda Bhagya Hipadduta. In this iron age of Kali, people have but short lives. They are quarrelsome, lazy, misguided, unlucky, and above all, always disturbed. So that's our situation here. So we need a very easy process because our minds are always disturbed and we're lazy. We're not going to do anything difficult. We're quarrelsome. We're too busy fighting with each other and worrying about, oh, she said this and he said that and he did that. And to like focus on self-realization. And then we're unlucky, it's like we just we don't have all the benefits and advantages that people had in previous ages, as we heard in the first verse. So, and misguided, right? Very easily we get pulled off track. So it has to be very simple, very streamlined, very clear. Just, a few things. So chant the holy name, hear Srimad Bhagavatam, associate with devotees, worship the deity, and visit holy places. Those 5 things, 5 potent processes, they can solve all problems and awaken our dormant love for Krishna. So let's just keep it simple and be focused and do those things and see what wonderful things come to us in our lives. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.